That was Richard Nixon, but that was Henry Kissinger. And then came along the Vietnam War. Now, I was there during that period, and I'll tell you, it was our own government that sabotaged that war. Our squadron told us when they came back from Vietnam, they couldn't arm their missiles until a missile was on the rails toward them, and they were having to maneuver against it. We weren't allowed to hit their missile batteries until late in the war. We weren't allowed to mine the harbor. You could fly aircraft over and drop mines in the harbor so that the Russian and Chinese couldn't resupply North Vietnam. And we were refused to do that. We had safe areas for the communists right across to the Ho Chi Minh Trail in Laos and Cambodia that you couldn't touch, you couldn't bomb, just like in the Korean War, which was a UN operation, by the way. You couldn't touch anything across the Yalu River, which separated Red China from North Korea. And of course, the head of UN military operations was always a Soviet general. So everything US operations had to approve through the UN went through a Soviet general and immediately got telegraphed to Pyongyang and Beijing. And that's why we lost the war. Now, the only reason the Incheon landing worked for MacArthur is that he didn't tell the UN what he was going to do. And that's why it was a surprise. And that cut the entire continent in half. And as soon as we had chased all the Chinese northward, they called truce. And that's why we have a truce today that divides North and South Korea. MacArthur was not allowed to win the war, was not allowed to push them all the way back to China. That's the way no-win wars work. And so, coming up to Vietnam, you might ask yourself, why is it that our own government sabotaged the war in Vietnam? Do you notice in Vietnam there are no yellow ribbons to support our troops? None of that. You couldn't walk into an airport and someone would say, thank you for your service. It didn't happen during Vietnam. They'd spit on you. And that's because the globalists wanted to poison the American minds against ever protecting another country against communism. That's what happened in Vietnam. We've never protected another nation against communism since Vietnam. When did the yellow ribbons come out? When did the support our troops come out? When we had, after 9/11, when we invaded innocent countries, Iraq and Afghanistan, claiming that they were harboring Osama bin Laden, that they were part of 9/11. Well, I'm here to tell you that 9/11 was a deep state operation from beginning to end. Terrorists had nothing to do with it except being hired out of